Lori here. I'm here today to do a non-spoiler review of the Owl Crate book for the month of October. The theme was Once Upon a Time, or I think it was Once Upon a Time. So the book was Vass the Night by Sarah Porter. This book, I will admit, it was not my favorite. I did give it like 3 stars. It was just super confusing, and I felt like it wasn't as clear. And I think that was kind of the point because it's a very, very like dreamy based book and there's a lot of elements and it goes by super fast. So if you're really not in the mindset to read this, it's a very, very hard book to get into. But at the same exact time, even though it's hard and it is confusing, it's super compelling. Like, you want to know the ending and you want to know what the story is about, but I felt it was a little bit hard to follow. So it wasn't my favorite book I've read. I gave it only 3 stars, and normally Owl Crate books for me are at least 4 or 5. But the premise is about this girl named Vassa, and she lives in New York City, and the way her town is constructed is there's this one chain of stores called the Buys, and if you go there and you get caught stealing, they can kill you. And I guess like the rest of the town, like I think it's kind of like a dystopian society. So it's like that's the one place if you go there and you get caught stealing, they can kill you. So Vassa goes there and she has a doll or something that's kind of her friend, and this creature kind of gets her accused of stealing even though she wasn't. So she has to fulfill a promise and she has to work there for 3 nights. So the whole book is basically following her 3-night adventure in the store, following these characters and what happens. You also get flashbacks to Vass's life, and you learn like what happened to her mother and what happened to her father. You learn a lot about Vass's past and the connection to the present. And it's just a very, very complicated story. And I felt like the pacing was off. Like, I felt like sometimes the book was super slow, but sometimes it went super fast. So it just was like an inconsistent pacing of the book. And I think that really confused me. But the first 4 chapters really, really flew over my head. And I think that was my biggest problem with this book, because I was constantly struggling to follow. It's a very, very symbol heavy book. And there's a lot of other elements that, like, you either get them or you don't. And I think that throughout the entire novel, I liked it. I was compelled to read it, but I'm not 100% sure that I really got it. Like, it wasn't a book that I could, like, go and have a really, really in-depth discussion about. That's why this video is going to be kind of short. But I did want to put my thoughts out there because I feel like it's a very, very specific book for a specific type of reader. I know I've read books like this before where there's, like, it's kind of like a fairy tale and stuff like that. But it was a very, very confusing story for me to, like, follow and stay engaged in. And the characters, I always felt like they were at, like, a distance. Like, I didn't really understand why they were making these decisions. But I was compelled to read. I wanted to know what happened. It wasn't the most clearest story, and I couldn't, the ending was a little bit unclear for me to, like, follow. And that hasn't happened to me with a lot with Owl Crate books, but I overall enjoyed it as a story. It's not a story I would read again, which is why I only gave it 3 stars. I would recommend you rent it, and if you really, really like it and want to reread it, maybe buy it. So I'd recommend either 3 stars or a borrow just for a first reading, because I think it is a little bit unclear what is actually happening in the story, and you might want to have to reread it, or if you don't like it, you can always not continue it. But I was happy that I finished it because it really was an interesting story that dealt with a lot of, like, big topics in today's society, and I really, really like that. It wasn't the clearest story for me to enjoy. But I hope you guys like my review. If you guys have read it and had different feelings or the same feelings, comment below and we could chat about it, but I'll talk to you guys later.